Good afternoon. I'm Trooper Linnea Crane. I am the Public Information Officer for Troop E. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you all that this is an active investigation, so we will be limited to how many questions we can answer at this time. And now I'd like to introduce who's here today. We have Chemung County Sheriff William Schramm, Troop E Commander Major Mikolos S. Surtse, Uniform Captain Ryan Bentley, and Chemung County District Attorney Whedon Wetmore. Sheriff.
Thank you. Before I get, good? You're okay. Okay. Before I get started too much into the incident that occurred last night, I just want to acknowledge the county exec and former Sheriff Chris Moss. When I contacted Chris last night, he, without question or anything, responded directly to the hospital to be with Investigator Thetke's family. Deputy County Exec Jen Furman is here. Legislative Chair Mark Margison is here. And we can't thank them enough for the support that they give us kind of behind the scenes that people don't always know about. So I'm going to cover a little bit of information and then turn it over to the Major, and we'll go from there. So last night, the Chemung County Sheriff's Office, along with the New York State Police, conducted a joint retail theft operation in Consumer Square in the town of Big Flats. This detail was scheduled from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. At about 6:45 p.m., a larceny suspect had left the target store, and one of our investigators who was assigned to the detail engaged in a foot pursuit with him. As a result of their interaction, they both ended up on the hood of a car of a co-defendant to the larceny suspect, who then accelerated away, throwing the investigator and the larceny suspect from the vehicle. As a result of that, Investigator Mike Thetke struck his head. He sustained a skull fracture, brain bleed, and is currently hospitalized in critical condition. So we are anxiously awaiting for updates on his condition and are wishing all the best for a speedy and complete recovery. From our perspective, when an incident like this happens, we can't thank enough the partners we have in law enforcement. Every agency from within this county, to include outside the county, Corning Police Department, Schuyler County Sheriff's Office, Steuben County Sheriff's Office, responded when they heard the call of an officer down. That's very assuring to us, and it just shows the collaboration that we have in law enforcement and how important people take these types of incidents and calls that come in, unfortunately, from time to time. A little bit about Mike Thetke. Mike Thetke is a 35-year-old male who has worked for us collectively for 11 years. Mike worked for us for a period of time. Then he had a separation in employment when he went down south to work for a law enforcement agency down there before coming back to Chemung County. So totally, he has 11 years with our agency. Mike is married to his wife, Patrice. They have 2 young boys, Remy and Camden. His parents, Lynn and Norm Thetke, along with his sister Angie and brother Norman, were all, as you can imagine, at the hospital yesterday, so we spent a lot of time talking to them at the hospital, and you know, our thoughts and prayers go out to the entire family. On behalf of the undersheriff, who is up here with me as well, and all the men that you see standing behind us, this is just a small sample of our agency. These are the gentlemen that are available to come over here today. The rest of them are either working collectively with the New York State Police and the Ithaca Police Department and some other agencies following up leads on this investigation, and others are still at the hospital with the family. So, you know, it's a big deal for the men and women of our agency. Mike is very well thought of and very well respected within the agency and also our law enforcement community. So again, all of our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family. And I really can't thank the Major and the Captain enough for the support and the willingness to step in and take over the investigative aspect of this case so that we can focus on, you know, giving all our attention to our investigator. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the Major. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. I appreciate the time to speak today. First of all, I'd like to extend my thoughts and prayers to Investigator Thetke, his family, and members of the Chemung County Sheriff's Office on behalf of the New York State Police. On Friday, March 29th, 2024, at approximately 6:45 p.m., the New York State Police, with assistance from the Chemung County Sheriff's Office, were participating in a retail theft detail, working with loss prevention at the Target store located on County Road 64 in the town of Big Flats. Target loss prevention personnel observed a black male place a TV and other various items in a shopping cart and exit past all points of sale. The suspect was challenged by loss prevention in the vestibule of the store and left the items behind as he exited. A 2016 black Chevy Impala attempted to pull up to the front of the store and pick up said suspect. Law enforcement attempted to block this vehicle to prevent it and other occupants from leaving the scene. This was ineffective, and as the suspect vehicle was able to evade law enforcement and began moving towards the suspect to pick him up in the rear of the parking lot. At this time, an investigator from the New York State Police and Investigator Thetke from the Chemung County Sheriff's Office chased the suspect on foot as he began to run toward the black Impala. The suspect slid across the hood of the Impala. Investigator Thetke reached to grab him and also slid onto the hood. The Impala accelerated and turned sharply, causing the suspect and Investigator Thetke to be ejected from the hood. The suspect subsequently got up and ran. Investigator Thetke sustained a serious head injury at this time. The suspect was taken into custody a short distance later by law enforcement participating in the detail. As a side note, during this pursuit of the suspect, a state police investigator suffered a minor leg injury. He was treated at Guthrie Corning Hospital and released. The Chevy Impala then fled the parking lot at a high rate of speed. Investigator Thetke suffered a severe head injury and was initially transported by ambulance to Guthrie Corning Hospital and then flown to Guthrie Robert Packard Hospital in Sayre, Pennsylvania, where he's in critical condition at this time. The suspect that was apprehended is identified as Dominic J. Haley, age 24, of Ithaca, New York, and was arrested and transported to SP Horseheads for processing. Haley was charged with assault on a police officer, a C violent felony, assault second, a D felony, petty larceny, and resisting arrest, both Class A misdemeanors. Haley was taken to the town of Big Flats Court and arraigned in front of Town Justice Paul Hart, where he was remanded in lieu of $100,000 cash or $200,000 bond to the Chemung County Jail. The black Chevy Impala was located abandoned in the immediate area of the Target store. A perimeter was then put in place in an attempt to locate the driver and any other suspects with negative results. The driver of the vehicle has been identified as Fatuana Masiling, age 24. She was last known to be residing in the Ithaca, New York area. We believe this is an isolated incident, and we believe there is no immediate threat to the public at this time. However, we are asking and seeking the public's assistance in locating Ms. Masiling. We are asking anyone with information to contact the New York State Police at 585-398-4100. This is where I switch speeds a little bit, and on a personal note, I want to thank all the area businesses for cooperating and assisting with our investigation. We had the roadways shut down. We had to go store to store, and everyone to a T cooperated with us, so we can't thank them enough. I want to thank Sheriff Schramm and all the first responders who assisted in their various capacities last night. All first responders, EMS, all the agencies, as Sheriff mentioned, we all came together in an attempt to locate these other suspects. As I mentioned previously, my thoughts and prayers go out to the friends and families of Investigator Thetke. As I've talked to the sheriff and talked with my superiors up in Albany, whatever the sheriff's office needs, we will give. So we will be there for them through the end of this. I also want to wish the member of the state police who was injured a speedy recovery. Again, on a personal note, in conclusion, I want to reinforce that no stone will be left unturned in this investigation, and all suspects that we believe perpetrated this crime will be brought to justice. So I thank you for your time. Weed Wetmore, District Attorney.
Last night, I was in communication with Under Sheriff Doug Hooper, as well as Senior Investigator Carl Applebacker. As the facts developed, as I was apprised of the information, it was decided by the state police who took over the investigation that Mr. Haley would be charged with assault of a police officer. And you wonder why assault of a police officer? Well, the intent under that particular statute, and it's 12008, the intent is where someone with intent to prevent a police officer from performing a lawful duty causes serious physical injury. So it doesn't have to be intent to cause the injury, it is intent to prevent the officer from performing the lawful duty. That fortunately is a bailable offense, so we were able to recommend bail last night in the amounts that the judge, Major just pointed out, which is $100,000 cash, $200,000 property. We also recommended $1 million for a cash bail because they would then have to post 10%, which would get us back up to $100,000. It's a Class C violent. It is punishable up to 15 years in prison. The assault second is also assault of a police officer, but it's with intent just to cause physical injury. That's with respect to the trooper that suffered injury. That's not a violent felony. Again, it is a Class D. That's punishable up to 7 years. All right, thank you. Any questions on the law? I don't think so. I think you got that. Thank you.
We'll take some questions if we can answer them. As Linnea, Trooper Crane mentioned, we're still in the middle of this investigation, so we may be limited what we can ask or answer.
We heard reports yesterday that one of the suspects, unclear if it was the one that you have in custody or if it was the driver, had previous charges. Is that something that you can speak on or confirm at this time?
I cannot speak to that. I don't have that information.
Last night, I was down at the scene. I saw that a lot of police officers were focusing their efforts in on the lows. Can you elaborate maybe a little bit more as to why certain stores, I guess, were being zeroed in on 2 hours after the incident happened?
Sure, it's a great question. Pursuant to the investigation, we review surveillance and work with the store employees at Lowe's. We believe we had a positive sighting of one of the suspects there, so that's why we went strategically through Lowe's, attempting to find that suspect with negative results.
And is there any indication as how this other suspect may have gotten away? Were they picked up? Did they?
We're still looking into that now. We want to confirm some things before we can release that information.
And then one last question is how soon after the incident did you guys know who you were looking for? How did those identities come together at that point? Or did you know when?
I will say we did not know the identity when it first occurred, but as we work through it strategically, we get information that I can't reveal, different various things that we use in law enforcement. As the night grew, we felt comfortable with who we were looking for and who the suspects were. Thank you.
What has been the community outreach so far? I was down at the scene. I know a lot of people, Sheriff Strom, were concerned about the investigators' well-being. I guess what have you seen personally with the outreach?
I can't emphasize the outpour of individuals reaching out from other law enforcement agencies. Senator O'Mara himself has reached out on several occasions. Law enforcement agencies in Pennsylvania, in our county, around our county, the public in general, it's just been a great outpouring of support, and it just makes you feel good. It reiterates that people do support law enforcement overall, and I think they will do everything that they can to help us bring this to a resolution. So it means a lot to everybody in the agency, and certainly to Mike Peckey's family.
And can also anybody speak as to any information regarding prior criminal history that may have contributed to this or led up to this?
There's prior criminal history that we know of. We're still working through that because other states and jurisdictions are involved, so we have to verify that through those jurisdictions prior to releasing that information. So it's a work in progress right now. There is some prior history there, so as soon as we work with these other outside agencies, we'll be able to divulge that information.
And I know that this investigation is obviously ongoing, but in terms of the driver, what are some of the charges that they could be facing?
The driver also is facing the same charges that Dominic Haley has been charged with, because again, it's with intent to prevent the police officer here from apprehending Haley. The driver is attempting to prevent the investigator, Thetke, from doing his job. And as a consequence, unfortunately, Investigator Thecke suffered the serious injury, and it's so intent to prevent him causing the serious physical injury. So the driver is someone that we are looking at even more so than Haley, because obviously she's on the run at this point. Okay?
And for the two investigators that were down there, you don't typically see two investigators responding to a crime that, you know, recently happened or in progress. I guess what were they doing down there as that detail?
The detail encompasses both agencies. I'm sorry, Sheriff, to step on your toes, but both agencies, and it's both a uniform detail and investigator-type detail. So they work in collaboration with each other, both inside the stores and outside the stores, to prevent further retail theft. So it's a group effort with all facets, from canines to drones, depending on the situation and what we determine is the best fit for that detail on that day.
And sort of piggybacking off of that question, was this a part of Governor Hochul's new retail theft operation for the reason why officers were on scene there?
Yes, it was. That's what we're doing in the state police. We're working with the local agencies to prevent the retail theft. So it's, again, it's a collaboration based on Governor Hochul's request. Okay? Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.